And the first thing I wanted to use to comment on is the measurement of productivity. When we are measuring productivity, and also in the last years, we have somehow evolved a bit more on the understanding on how productivity is somehow taking place in different places. And we have to think about on a more multidimensional kind of concept, in particular when we are talking about productivity in services. So leaving a bit aside GBA sometimes and looking at other things, such as, for instance, the big influence that they might have the managerial processes or the decision making in making services sector in areas that maybe they are not as let's say dynamic as urban areas, maybe in peripheral areas or areas that are less connected than the center of the country. What we have looked at, looking at productivity today and looking at performance, we have seen that the main differences between the north and the south, they were connected with factors related with some of them we have been discussing today, about the skills and talent, about also the wage distribution. So for instance, we know that there is a wage premium for the areas in around London, but also some other areas related with connectivity and connectedness and the interdependencies between these two concepts. So thinking about also access to finance, as we were saying, and also access to multinationals. Also attracting international investment is also very important because of the big spillovers that those companies might have in the place where they are located. We have also mentioned the role of culture, and the business culture as well it can be very connected with identities and nationalisms. But we have also taken a bit or tackle a bit the role of path dependency and evolutionary approaches. So areas that are more entrepreneurial, we have seen because of the international literature that areas that were more entrepreneurial even in the medieval times with agricultural developments, they are more entrepreneurial nowadays as well. So there is a huge entrepreneurial culture also connected to places. So these are more or less current trends, let's say, on explaining productivity differences. But if we think about the long term, and I have to say that the big elephant in the room is that COVID and Brexit. You know, we know that COVID and Brexit, they have affected places differently. And we know that, in particular, Brexit is going to affect the most productive sectors. Therefore, the combination between COVID and Brexit is going to also create more, if any, big divides in the country, in the productivity, and also in other areas. So we know that COVID and no deal Brexit have different negative consequences in some sectors, so some sectors seem to be more affected than others because of, value change disruptions have affected our sectors differently because of lockdowns and because also travel restrictions, but also because of activities that cannot really be done at home. So we might be seeing long-term productivity as link between challenges like the potential spatial concentration of activities because there is more finance because of trying to reduce the risk of investing in some areas, or because of also we have maybe skill mismatches because COVID is affecting differently different workers, or because we have job polarization because Brexit might eventually affect several kind of sectors that are more in the, let's say, in the intermediate part of the income distribution. But we have opportunities as well, and we have seen that COVID in particular has strengthened some of the trends. So, for instance, diversification patterns. Many firms have diversified into other areas. also, all the technology and the digital era somehow, in part in SMEs, it have been putting pressure for them to use somehow move into a more digital work, and then somehow this might help the productivity in the future as well.